how does a championship team um, win a World Cup match by completely throwing out the playbook they spent months practicing?
I mean, normally that sounds like a recipe for a total collapse.
Right, it really does. But today, well, that's exactly what we're digging into. Welcome to the deep dive, everyone.
Glad to be here.
We have a single, absolutely fascinating source on the table today. It's a really detailed match report from the Women's T20 World Cup opener.
Oh, yeah, the Australia versus South Africa match.
Exactly. And the overarching mission for this deep dive is to unpack how a team facing, mounting pressure and some truly disastrous early setbacks completely rewrote the script. We are looking at a masterclass in fearless counterattacking and, frankly, the sheer tactical genius of spin bowling.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is the context surrounding this matchup, because that's what makes it so compelling. To really understand the decisions made on the field, you have to understand the psychological stakes off.
All right, the background matters.
Absolutely. So Australia entered this tournament in a position they are completely unaccustomed to. For the first time since 2017, they were entering a global tournament without a trophy to defend.
Which is, an absolute eternity in international sports.
It really is. So they're already facing these external whispers, right? There are lingering doubts about whether their legendary aura of invincibility has, well, finally shattered.
Yeah.
And staring them down from the other end of the pitch is South Africa, a team that didn't just come to participate. They entered this tournament as heavy favorites.
It makes me think of a boxing scenario. Like, imagine you're a legendary heavyweight boxer.
Okay, I like that.
You've got the highlight reel, you've got the intimidation factor, but you haven't actually held this specific championship belt in years.
Right.
So you step into the ring against a younger, hungry challenger who everyone is whispering is the new favorite. The bell rings, you step forward, and immediately you take two vicious, incredibly precise jabs right to the chin before you've even raised your gloves. You were just staggering.
Yeah, that dizzying, incredibly vulnerable moment is precisely where the Australian women's cricket team found themselves in the opening overs of this match.
Wow.
South Africa didn't just start well. They came out looking like a force of nature.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to get why the end of this match is such a big deal, we have to look at the mechanics of how disastrously it started for Australia.
For sure.
A huge part of South Africa's early dominance was the reunion of their dangerous new ball duo, right? Merzan Kapp and Shabnam Ismail. And there's a massive narrative boost here because Ismail had actually reversed her retirement to come back to the international stage.
Which instantly elevates the emotional intensity of the South African side. I mean, you have a legendary player returning for one more campaign, pairing up with her longtime bowling partner.
Right.
The sheer intimidation factor of that reunited attack hitting their absolute peak rhythm right out of the gate, it just cannot be overstated.
The match report actually calls it a dream start for South Africa. Like, in just 4 overs, they completely dismantled Australia's opening batters. The source describes them as controlling the batters with this delicate, almost surgical movement of the ball.
Yeah, surgical's a good word for it.
But hold on, for those of us who, don't face fast bowlers for a living, what does surgical movement actually look like physically from the batter's perspective?
It's terrifying, frankly.
I bet.
When we talk about movement in cricket, specifically swing and seam, we're talking about the ball changing its trajectory late in its flight.
Okay.
Or darting sharply left or right the split second it bounces off the pitch. The bowler is using the prominent stitching on the ball, kind of like a rudder in the air.
So your brain calculates where the ball is going to be, you commit to swinging your bat at that exact spot, and the ball simply isn't there anymore.
Precisely. And when fast bowlers like Kapp and Ismail are getting that kind of delicate late movement, it creates an atmosphere of inevitability. The batter is constantly second-guessing their own footwork.
Oh, man. That sounds stressful.
It feels less like a competition and more like a waiting game. You start feeling like it's not a matter of if you will get out, but when.
Put yourself in the dugout for a second. Like, you're the listener. You're the next batter up, sitting there in your pads, watching your team's meticulously planned, highly practiced game plan completely crumble in just 24 deliveries. Does human instinct say, hey, I need to play it safe, protect my wicket, and stop the bleeding? Because the pressure to just survive has to be paralyzing.
Oh, for most players, it forces them straight into a defensive shell. They stop looking for runs and just try to survive the onslaught.
Right.
But in T20 cricket, where you only have 120 balls total to build your entire score, survival mode is incredibly dangerous. It's usually just a slower, more agonizing way of losing.
Which brings us to the player who looked at survival mode and completely threw it out the window. Enter Phoebe Litchfield. And I love the physical context the source provides here because she wasn't even at 100%. She had missed Australia's most recent warm-up match because of a quadriceps problem.
Yep.
So she literally has a bad leg.
Yet she walks out to the crease on her tournament debut into this absolute nightmare of a scenario and shows zero hesitation.
Right. Marizanne Kapp is bowling beautifully,
Yeah.
getting that surgical movement we just talked about. So what does Litchfield do? Instead of staying back and defending, she uses her feet.
Yeah.
She physically steps down the pitch toward Kapp and hits her for consecutive fours. Then she faces the legendary Shabnam Ismail, and she hits her for a four, another four, and then a massive six.
It was amazing.
Just a sudden, violent explosion of runs. Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because it's not just swinging wildly.
Right. No, not at all. It entirely shifted the geometry of the game.
That's the part of the match report that absolutely hooked me. It makes me think of tennis. Yeah, like if you're facing a server who is just burying you with incredible spin and vicious angles, sometimes you have to step inside the baseline. You decide to take the ball on the rise immediately after it bounces.
Okay, I see where you're going.
You rob the server of the time and the physical space they need for that spin to actually take effect. Is that essentially what Litchfield is doing with her footwork here?
That is a perfect mechanical comparison, yes. By walking down the pitch towards the bowler, despite a bad quad, mind you, she is changing the contact point.
Wow.
So if Kapp bowls a ball designed to bounce and hit the top of the stumps, Litchfield stepping forward means she hits a ball before it can fully bounce and deviate.
She cuts off the angle.
Exactly. She is physically altering the bowler's length, forcing them to second-guess their plans.
Right.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's the tactical brilliance of using raw aggression as a defensive tool.
And it pays off in a huge way. Because of her counterattack, Australia finishes the power play, the first 6 overs, at 52 for 2. Now, I know the power play is crucial, but break down exactly why reaching 52 runs there is such a big deal when you've already lost 2 early wickets.
Well, in T20 cricket, the power play rules dictate that the fielding team is only allowed to have 2 fielders outside the 30-yard inner circle.
Okay.
It's a fielding restriction that's strictly designed to encourage aggressive scoring. But usually, when a batting team loses 2 quick wickets right at the start, they abandon the boundary hitting and just try to nudge the ball around to rebuild.
I get scared.
Right, and they waste the fielding restrictions. By reaching 52, Litchfield ensured Australia didn't waste that structural advantage. She didn't just score runs, she executed a psychological jailbreak.
A psychological jailbreak. I love that.
She literally forced South Africa's captain to take their legendary fast bowlers out of the attack and bring in Ayabonga Kaka to try and restore order.
And Litchfield just shoots to a 23-ball 50 on her debut, eventually getting out for 50 off 24 balls to Kaka. The fireworks show was spectacular.
Truly.
But, I do want to push back on the highlight reel narrative here just a little bit. I'm looking at the numbers, and it's tempting to say Litchfield won this game in those 24 balls. But aggression in a vacuum doesn't win T20 matches. It just creates a really entertaining collapse.
That is very true.
Like, if nobody capitalizes on that chaotic energy she created, they still lose.
Yeah, that is the structural flaw in so many high-pressure run chases. You get a comet like a brilliant flash of scoring, but no foundation is built underneath it. When Litchfield fell in the 7th over, the game was very much still hanging in the balance.
Exactly. Think about it. Have you ever had to step in and finish a high-pressure project that someone else started in a blaze of glory but then left half done?
Oh, absolutely.
That is the reality of what Elise Perry and Georgia Wareham had to do next. Litchfield flipped the board, but Perry and Wareham are the ones who actually put the pieces back together.
And doing that requires a completely different psychological skill set.
I bet.
Take Elise Perry, who was one of the most experienced players in the history of the sport. She had been out there since the 4th over, but she had only faced 4 deliveries because Litchfield was just dominating the strike.
Oh, wow. So she's just watching.
Right. So Perry has to suddenly shift gears from being a spectator to being the absolute anchor of the innings.
And then Georgia Wareham comes in and immediately hits the ground running. The match report points out how Wareham found boundaries in consecutive overs off Kakaka.
Yeah.
Together, Perry and Wareham built this incredibly crucial 58-run partnership off just 38 balls for the 5th wicket. Perry finishes with 36 off 26 balls, and Wareham hits 32 off 22.
And what's vital about that partnership is how it forces South Africa to change their fielding strategies all over again.
How so?
Well, when you have two batters consistently rotating the strike and finding boundaries, the fielding captain has to push fielders deeper to protect the boundary ropes.
Okay, to stop the big hits.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But that, in turn, opens up more gaps for easy singles. It's a domino effect that slowly bleeds the pressure out of the bowling side.
But South Africa wasn't just rolling over. I mean, they threw their own massive counterpunch in the middle overs, and her name was Nonkululeko Malaba. She is a left-arm spinner, and according to the source, she has been an absolute nightmare for batters.
Oh, without a doubt.
Since the start of 2024, she has taken 41 T20 international wickets. That is the most for South Africa.
Malaba's mechanics are incredibly difficult to handle, especially for right-handed batters.
Why is that?
Well, as a left-arm orthodox spinner, her natural delivery drifts away from the right-hander in the air, pitches, and then spins even further away.
Oh, okay.
It constantly invites the batter to reach for the ball, which induces false shots.
And we see that immediately. She comes into the attack with Litchfield gone and two right-handers at the crease, and she strikes on her very second ball.
Yep.
Ashley Gardner tries to take her on and gets caught at extra cover. Later, Malaba comes back in the 16th over and takes the massive wicket of Elise Perry.
Which was huge.
And we absolutely have to talk about South Africa's fielding backing her up, because Laura Wolvaart took what the report calls a screamer of a catch at extra cover to dismiss Wareham. So South Africa is constantly fighting back, constantly taking wickets.
Which highlights the difference between a pause and a collapse.
Okay, elaborate on that.
In T20 cricket, losing wickets in clusters usually kills your run rate because new batters need time to adjust to the pace of the pitch. But Australia managed to use those rapid wicket losses almost as brief pauses.
I see.
Their middle order just kept the scoreboard ticking. They absorbed the chaos of Malaba's brilliant spin bowling and Wolvaart's fielding and built a sustainable base, eventually reaching a highly formidable 172 for 8.
They put 172 on the board. That is a fantastic recovery.
It really is.
But, against a heavy favorite like South Africa, runs on the board are just theoretical until you actually defend them.
Oh, exactly.
You need a cohesive bowling strategy. And this is a part of the deep dive where the overarching theme really crystallizes for me. Australia looks at the pitch, looks at South Africa's powerful batters, and completely throws out the playbook.
This is the ultimate tactical pivot. Throughout their warm-up games, Australia had relied on a pace-heavy opening strategy. That was the plan.
But instead of handing the new ball to their quick bowlers, Australia decides to open their bowling with Sophie Molyneux, a spinner. It's a massive deviation.
Huge.
And it pays off instantly. In the very first over, Molyneux traps Sune Lewis LBW. Now, let's quickly clarify that for the uninitiated, because LBW stands for leg before wicket.
Right.
What is the actual physical mechanism of that dismissal?
Imagine a baseball batter just standing in front of the strike zone and blocking the pitch with their hip so the catcher can't catch it.
Okay, yeah.
In cricket, if the bowler delivers a ball that is mathematically on a trajectory to smash into the wooden stumps, but the batter illegally obstructs it with their body, usually their leg pad, the umpire will rule them out.
Ah, got it.
It's a dismissal because the ball would have bowled them if the batter's body hadn't gotten away.
So Molyneux gets that LBW on Sumulus immediately, and from that exact moment on, she dictates the entire tempo of the match. Australia looks at their quick bowlers, like the highly accurate Kim Garth, and restricts them to just 4 overs total for the entire innings.
It's crazy to think about.
4 overs of pace. Instead, they unleash a 4-pronged spin attack that absolutely suffocates South Africa.
The numbers are just staggering here. The spinners take 8 wickets for 72 runs in just 12.4 overs.
Wow.
Wareham takes 3 for 13, including the crucial wicket of Nadine de Klerk. Alana King takes 2 for 26. And then Molyneux comes back later in the 14th over to remove Wolvaart, who is actually South Africa's top scorer with 44.
And it could have been even worse for South Africa. There's this incredible visual moment the match report highlights where Alana King almost has Nadine de Klerk out in her very first over, but Ashley Gardner, who is fielding on the boundary, actually parries the ball over the rope for a 6 while trying to make the catch.
Oh, yeah, that was a wild moment.
It's one of those chaotic moments where the momentum could easily swing right back to South Africa. But the spin attack just relentlessly tightens the grip. South Africa is ultimately bowled out for 107.
So what does this all mean? This entire sequence raises a massive question about strategy. Why was refusing to give South Africa pace so profoundly effective?
Seriously, it felt like watching someone struggle in quicksand. The harder they fought, the faster they sank.
Hmm.
Let's break down the biomechanics of that. Why does a powerful batter actually want a fastball?
Because momentum in striking sports is a shared resource.
Oh, that's interesting.
When a fast bowler delivers the ball at high velocity, the batter doesn't need to generate all the power to hit a boundary. They just need precise timing and redirection. The ball is essentially doing half the work.
Right.
But when a spinner like Molyneux or Wareham slows the ball down, they are starving the batter of kinetic energy. The batter has to generate 100% of the force themselves.
And what if the ball is spinning and gripping the pitch at the same time?
Then it's a trap.
A trap.
Yeah, if you have to swing out of your shoes to generate power, but the ball is gripping the pitch and deviating, well, misjudging the timing by even a fraction of a second results in a mishit catch instead of a soaring six. What Molyneux and the Australian Brain Trust realized in real time was that South Africa's lineup was salivating for fast bowling.
They wanted it.
They wanted that pace to fuel their boundary hitting.
So Australia simply refused to give it to them.
Exactly. By looking at the conditions, reading the batter's body language, and realizing that pace would play right into South Africa's hands, Australia completely abandoned their pre-planned strategy.
Wow.
They shelved the pace attack they had practiced with all through the warm-ups, and they trusted their spinners to weave a web. They read the room and changed the play at the line of scrimmage.
And it resulted in a crushing 65-run victory. South Africa bowled out for 107, which, the source notes is their second lowest total ever in a completed T20 international against Australia. When you look at that final scoreline, the actual takeaway here extends way beyond the boundary ropes.
It really is a masterclass in the value of tactical pivots.
Yeah, think about it. Whether you are walking out to bat in a World Cup opener, or you're running a business, or you're managing a complicated project at work, Australia's victory proves that adaptability is infinitely more valuable than sticking stubbornly to your initial plan.
Absolutely.
When the first 4 overs of your project are an absolute disaster, you can either fold or you can find your inner Phoebe Litchfield and start changing the geometry of the game.
And perhaps more importantly, when the time comes to defend your work, you have to be willing to throw out the playbook if the situation demands it.
All right.
Just like Molyneux taking that new ball instead of the fast bowlers. It makes you wonder, in our own lives, does over-preparation and sticking too closely to our own worn-up routines actually limit our ability to read the room?
That is a fascinating thought.
If you're that heavyweight boxer stepping into the ring, maybe the secret to winning isn't remembering exactly how you hit the heavy bag in training camp. Maybe the secret is realizing the opponent in front of you doesn't know how to handle a totally different stance and having the courage to switch it up right then and there.